Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is Ravenclaw Reads and I am Courtney, and today I'm going to go over what I read in May and give you an introduction to my June TBR. If you're new to my channel, thanks so much for joining. Please consider subscribing. If you've already been watching my channel, welcome back. If you haven't watched my channel, you know that while I do a TBR, it is like what I kind of want to read. I am a mood reader, and so the books that I list now may not always be the books that I end up with, but I do like having a good stack of books to go to when I'm done with another book, and that helps my reading pace. So I knew that, but I found that out especially in May. So as we start the May, what I read, I'll say I read 22 books this month, and that's the highest amount of books I've ever read in any month. That's not my normal. And it was, I think, a lot to do with just having very slumpy months in March and April, as well as infusing middle grade May into my reading selections. I really enjoyed that aspect of reading this month, and I plan to continue to infuse that moving forward. So let's talk about what I read in May. All right, so I have all of my things out to tell you what I read in May, and I'm gonna give myself a really hard job and add the pictures here during editing. So let me just show, so I track my books in two ways. I'll just show you this real quick. So one way is I keep like a little reading what I read collection, and then I keep a reading journal in which I write down what the book was, the title, author, and how many stars. So I also do the online spreadsheet. I'm super behind, so I don't know if I'll ever catch up again, but I do at some point want to, maybe incrementally, because I want to see like patterns and trends of my reading at the end of the year, and I'll be bummed if I don't have that. So I did, like I said, I read 22 books this year, and I'm going to tell you what I want to read, so I'm going to try to move semi-fast. So the first book I read was Christy in Charge. That was by Anna Martin. That was number 122 in the Babysitters Club book. I decided that while I've read most of the Stacy and Claudia books as my reread, I really enjoyed their stories, I wanted to read some other ones. So I went with Christy in Charge. Christy's my least favorite of all of the Babysitters Club girls. However, well, actually Abby's my least favorite, but Christy is right up there. And this one was actually really good. And that was 4 stars. And this was about, there was like a challenge between the teachers and students where, not a challenge, but they had an event where teachers and students switched places. And Christy became the PE coach along with another boy who she thought was kind of like a goofball and like wasn't focused. Turns out he was. Moral of the story, don't judge a book by its cover. So that was really good. Then I read Ghost Speech by R.L. Stine. That was a Goosebumps book, and I gave that a 4 stars. I loved Goosebumps when I was a kid, and so I was looking forward to middle grade May and reading that. I found that at Barnes & Noble and picked that up. Next, I read Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. I gave this 3 stars. I did not really enjoy it. I thought Magnolia was a brat. I thought their relationship was toxic, but not in the way that people had been touting it as being toxic. And I didn't enjoy it. Now, as people are talking more about like Daisy Hates, I'm like, should I read it? But like, I have to remember myself, I didn't like Magnolia Parks, don't read it. Okay, next I listened to The Reunion by Megan Quinn. This was a story that was on Kindle Unlimited, and you got the Audible for free. And this story followed a family who was celebrating their parents' 50th wedding anniversary, and we kind of follow the kids as they plan that, and they meet some crush or some relationship building, not relationship building with each other, but they build new relationships with some potential love interest. I gave that 3 stars. It was just mid. Then I got into a series, Greystone Secrets, and first I read The Strangers. This is by Margaret Peterson Haddix. I gave The Strangers 4 stars. It really gave Hawthorne legacy sort of vibes with the puzzles and the strange mystery they had to figure out, so I was really into that, and I knew I wanted to read book 2. From there I went to New From Here by Kelly Yang. I gave this 4.5 stars. It was really good. It was set in COVID 2020. It followed a family from Hong Kong leaving to get away from COVID before it hit Hong Kong and coming to America, which they've already lived. They were coming back to America to face tons of racism and discrimination, and I found it to be really well written. I did not feel triggered by reading about being in pandemic times again. It was just, I really liked it. So 4.5 stars. Then for my book of the month, they have the best book of the months in May. I've picked mine for June, but I'm not really sold on any of them. But for May, it was on point. So I picked up The True Love Experiment by Christina Lauren. This is the companion novel to The Soulmate Equation. And this book sort of follows the same premise of two couples using that DNA matchmaker and trying to make that work out. This was really cute. I gave it 5 stars. Then after that, I read Marianne in the Middle. It was book number 125 in the Babysitters Club by Anne and Martin. I gave this 3 stars. I don't remember it, to be honest, but I know I didn't love it. I didn't love it because it was really about, a little bit that I remember, I know it was about Jesse and Mallory. And when I was a kid, I loved Marianne and Mallory. And as an adult rereading, Mallory and Jesse, they're just like so immature. And I get it's a middle grade, but it's just like not my favorite. Then I went back to the Greystone Secrets #2. I read The Deceivers by Margaret Peterson Haddix. I was really excited to jump into this, but I gave this a 3 stars. It got really confusing. This book deals with a parallel universe, and they weren't really explaining it very well. There are double characters because they're in a parallel universe, and so that really did not do much for me. However, I recently did pick up book 3, and that would be in what I want to read for June, so go figure. All right, next I read Collided by Lauren Asher. This book is part of the series Dirty Air series. My sister and I are reading this together, not tandemly, but we're reading it for the month and then we'll debrief on it. I rated this 3 stars. I thought the first book was better. Throttled was better. This was okay. It was kind of like a repeat of Throttled a bit, but not as good. Then I read Vacation Wars by Megan Quinn. This was another Audible Kindle combo. I gave that 2 stars. Next up, I read What Lives in the Woods by Lindsay Curry. Lindsay Curry also wrote Scritch Scratch, which I really liked. I read that in October. And in this story, I gave 4 stars. This was a spooky, sort of eerie story, but I found a pattern in Lindsay Curry's writing. She writes about Chicago, she writes about old homes, she writes about ghosts. It's all of that. It was pretty good. Then I was so excited to finally get Meet Me at the Lake by Carly Fortune. I gave this 4.75 stars. I really liked this book. I thought the characters were well written. So I definitely recommend that book. And if you want more in depth of like what I was reading at that moment, check my weekly vlogs where I go in as I'm reading the stories. Okay, next I read, it was like a Megan Quinn month. I read Megan Quinn The One Night. Again, it was on Audible and Kindle, and this was a novella. It was 4 stars, and it's sort of like the prequel to Reunion, to 2 characters in the Reunion who dated, and well, they had one night together, and you could see them coming up in the Reunion having issues with each other, but I didn't know where that stemmed from. Well, this is the prequel to that, and it was really good. Like I said, it was just a novella. I think Megan Quinn should stick to the novellas because I give that 4 stars. Next up, I read Accidentally Amy. This is by Lynn Painter, and I gave that 4 stars. I really liked that. This was free on Kindle Unlimited, but it was really cute. It was about a girl who is starting a new job. She goes to Starbucks to get a coffee. Hers isn't ready, and the person ahead of her, Amy, ordered the same thing. So when Amy's drink gets called, she grabs it, and she dashes off, runs into a guy, spills the coffee. Come to find out the guy is her boss, and he thinks her name is Amy. Then he finds out she's not Amy, and he's like completely turned off because they're kind of flirty at first, but he's completely turned off by the fact that she lied about her name, which is kind of dumb. But anyway, they start dating or sort of talking over phone and text, and as she pretends that she's Amy during the text. Now that I say it out loud, it's kind of dumb. I don't know. Anyway, I gave it 4 stars. Then I read The Peculiar Incident on Shady Street, also by Lindsay Curry. Now this was my 3rd, well, I read one like a couple days before, then this one, my 3rd Lindsay Curry book in total, and they're all starting to sound the same. So I gave this 3 stars. I don't think that it was the worst book. I think if you're going to read Lindsay Curry, know that Scritch Scratch is probably the best, and so maybe don't start with that and just sort of build up. Then I read my next Book of the Month book, which was Truly or Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I gave this book 5 stars. I actually listened to it at a commute one day for work. It was like a 3-hour to and from. Well, it was 1.5 hours, so 3 hours total in the car. And I read about half of this book through Audible. Really well written. Such a good story. And I think it's a companion novel to Part of Your World, which I did get from Book of the Month back there, but I didn't read it. So I'm going to go back and read it. But basically, we have our 2 main characters who are both doctors. The new male doctor comes in. Nobody really likes him. And he's kind of awkward. And the female doctor thinks that he's trying to take her place. And they end up figuring out that's not the case. And then they get into some fake dating. So I definitely recommend that. Then I read Forever Never by Lucy Score. And towards the end of the month, I was really like searching for things to read because I had read so much. And I'd gotten through all my middle grades. And so I picked up Forever Never. It is on Kindle Unlimited. I don't remember much about it except on my note, I just put no. And I gave it 2 stars. Then I read The DoOver by Lynn Painter. This is a YA novel. I gave it 4 stars. It was really cute. It's basically about a girl who relives Valentine's Day over and over, and trying to like figure out what she's doing wrong to get out of that day. I gave it 4 stars versus 5 because the Groundhog's Day theme did get boring, and then the ending wasn't the best. I also wanted to see more from, so like she had her boyfriend, and then she also had a guy she kept running into every time she relived the day, and he was like her lab partner or whatever. And they had great chemistry on the last day that she redid her day. They had a whole day together, and I wanted to see more of that in the story, and it just ended. Then I read Falling in Love by Erin Branscombe. This was also on Kindle Unlimited. I gave this 4 stars. This is a sweet romance about a couple that has like some forced proximity and they start dating. Then I read Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams. I gave this 4 stars. This is in the same universe as When in Rome. I didn't really love When in Rome, but Practice Makes Perfect was pretty good, 4 stars. And Sarah Adams for me is hit or miss as an author. I'd be interested to hear what you think, so comment that down below. Then the last 2 books I read this month. So I read The Serpent and The Wings of Night. I ended up giving that 4 stars. That's by Carissa Broadbent. And this book has been everywhere, but I really liked the vampire element. I liked the human with the vampire. However, it got 4 stars because like it didn't get good to like 60%. And so I was very determined to read this, and I wanted to read the duology. So I wasn't giving up, but I could see easily how people might not be into it as much. But yeah, 60% in is when I was like, okay, I'm hooked. I got to figure out what happens. It gives Hunger Games vibes, but it just was kind of slow moving for me personally. So if you've read it, I'd be interested to hear what you think. And then the last book I just finished up. No, that was the last book. Oh my gosh. That was the last book. So that was the last book of May, Serpent and the Wings of Night. And so that was 22 books for the month. So I'm looking at my chart and have 1 book read for June already. So I was going to count that. But that is for June. Okay, so let's talk about what I want to read for June. All right, so let's start with some of the physical books that I have. So I have quite a few books in the library. I did a library haul a little while ago, and so if you didn't see that, check it out on my shorts. I did not do a reading vlog last week because I just had a busy schedule and we moved. And so if you want to see that library haul, I'm going to show them here, but you can always just give me some love and go watch that video. So let's start with some of the physical books. Okay, in no particular order, and again, I am a mood reader, so this could change at any time. But one of the books I want to read the 2nd book in the Crowns of Nyaxia novel. This is The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. The way the book ended was on such a high note. The first book ended, The Serpent and the Wings of Night, that I definitely want to read this month. I know I definitely will. What I love about this too is that it's like a nice chunky book with a good page feel. The words are kind of small though, the font's small. But they do actually have it on Kindle Unlimited as well. So I'll definitely be reading that. I'm currently reading Secretly Yours by Tessa Bailey because the 2nd book in this series, Unfortunately Yours, comes out this month, and I really wanted to read it. I'd originally got this on my Kobo, which is sitting back there, and I just couldn't get into it, and I'm only on page 18 and I can see it's a little bit of a struggle, so I'm glad I have it physically. I ended up picking it up at Target for 20% off. But since getting my Kindle Oasis, I've really been focused on reading digitally. And so my hope is that if it's an author that I know and that I like, but I can't get through it digitally, I'll get the paperback or fantasy books. Otherwise, everything else will be library or the Kindle. All right, this is a book left over from last month, Ghostlight. I have this borrowed from the library digitally as well. I want to get through this. It's a middle grade sort of ghost story that I want to read. I recently picked up Ava Gates' Death by Beach read. Again, for June, I want to read lots of summery books. And so even though it's a cozy mystery, it's giving summer vibes. And so excited to read this. I also want to read The Villa by Rachel Hawkins. I don't know much about this except it's a summery thriller. And then I still have A Discovery of Witches to start. I am committed to reading this book no matter how long it takes. And so I do have this from the library, but I also bought it on Kindle 2 years ago. Again, don't remember why I did that, but it must have been important. So I definitely want to read this as well. Okay, so digitally, I have a couple of books that are coming out that I want to for sure read, but they're not out yet. I want to read Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. I thought that was going to be the book of the month this month, or one of the choices, and it wasn't, so I need to wait for that to come out and pick it up on Kindle. I also want to read Same Time Next Summer by Annabelle Monaghan. I think that's how you say her last name. I'll put the picture here. And then I want to read Love in Books. This is another Aaron Branscombe book within the same universe. I also want to read Hot Pot Murder by Jennifer J. Chow. She wrote Death by Bubble Tea. And then I also want to read Misfortune Cookie by Vivian Chin. And then The 5-Star Weekend by Ellen Hildebrand, which is one of the books I picked up from Book of the Month. Okay, so here's what's actually in my library that I want to read. So, believe it or not, I'm reading another Megan Quinn. This is The Wedding Game. It's another book that's on Kindle Unlimited and Audible for free, and it's really cute so far. So I have high hopes for this. I also want to read, actually, I don't know if I want to read this, but I did download I Kissed Shara Wheeler. This was on Kindle Unlimited, and I remember like a year ago it was really popular, and so when I saw it on Kindle Unlimited, I just thought I would hold it. I also am going to read Babysitter's Club Super Special Number 2, Babysitter's Summer Vacation by Anna Martin. This is one of my favorite super special books when I was a kid, and I'm excited to keep that summer vibe going. I also want to read The Matchbreaker Summer by Annie Raines. Nora Goes Off Script, also by Annabelle Monaghan. Summer Reading by Jen McKinley. Witch Upon a Star by Angela M. Sanders. And Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. Everybody's kind of talking about that book, so I want to read that. And then I also want to read The Comeback by Lily Chu. I've had that book that I purchased. I have The Lightning Thief. I want to reread the Percy Jackson series as well. So kind of all over the place, but lots of good intentions. And so I'm hopeful that I can get through some of those books. So those are the books that I hope to read in June and the books that I read in May. I hope you got some ideas of things that you could read in the upcoming month of June. I'd love to hear what you're reading down below. Give me some recommendations. What should I be looking out for? What should I be reading? What could I add to my TBR? As always, thanks so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. My posting schedule is Thursday and Sundays. Thursday is usually just a bookish video, and Sunday is my reading vlog. It'll be a little bit different this week because I didn't do a vlog last week, but that's generally my pace. So thanks so much for watching and have a great day. Bye guys.